Hi guys, well today I'd like to share with you a privileged piece of information. This is called Refwa. You might be thinking, Ref what? Okay, Refwa is not a strange language, it is just an acronym that is going to help you greatly in your calculation questions. So what it's going to help us do, it's a simple, systematic method for solving calculation questions. It's going to help you maximize your marks and minimize your mistakes. Bonus. All right. So what does it do? Now, the good news is that a lot of this you're probably already doing. And it's very simple stuff. But by doing it systematically each and every time, and you get into a good habit of processing your calculations, you're going to make sure that you stay on the right track. So R, what does R stand for? As I said, very obvious, read the question. But be careful, this is not as simple as it may sound. When you're reading, you've got to make sure that you're reading correctly. Sometimes in the nerve moment of an exam, you're thinking, okay, I've got it, I know this, and brrr, you run off down some track and you're thinking, actually, that was not the track that the examiner was asking you for. So take your time, breathe, make sure that you are making eye contact with your question, if you know what I mean. Read thoroughly, maybe 2 times or even 3 times through the question. And something that can be really helpful is with a pencil or a highlighter or a pen or something like that to actually underline important information. Let's have a look at an example here. A projectile is launched at a speed of 12 meters per second into the atmosphere on a planet that has a gravitational acceleration of 2 meters per second squared. You're starting to imagine this in your mind, yeah? Calculate the maximum height it reaches. I've read it once. Kind of got a picture. I'm seeing Matt Damon on Mars throwing a potato. Could be. Okay, so the projectile is launched at here we go, this is the important stuff, speed of 12 meters per second into the atmosphere on a planet that has a gravitational acceleration, there's an important little phrase, of 2 meters per second. Calculate, now that's an important word because it tells me what kind of question we're doing, calculation. Calculate the maximum height it reaches. And then in my third read, I'm actually just going to annotate things. The speed, well, that was the initial speed, acceleration, calculate, okay, that was the maximum height, that'll be delta y. You get the idea. Okay, so that's how you read and make sure that you're making eye contact, engage with your question. Okay, let's move on. E, ha, now this is the secret ingredient of our secret recipe. So don't tell anybody else. In fact, you can tell everybody else because they should know this. So E stands for extract. Now what are we talking about here is we're extracting the information from the question and organizing it into a list. Now why? Remember we was using the cooking analogy. We can make cooking easy for ourselves. Have you seen those shows, Ready, Steady, Cook, that kind of thing? The chef just stands there and they've got all their ingredients lined up in little pots. And they say, then we take the bowl of onions and we add it to our recipe. Smile and wave, smile and wave. And it's so easy because all the ingredients are just lined up in little pots. Anyone can do that. Okay, so that's what we want to do for ourselves, is we want to take our raw ingredients, which is the question, and organize it into a neat little list. Okay, so it's like our chopping board, really, sticking with the cooking analogy. Imagine we were cooking a chicken curry or something. There's our chicken, and we want to add some potatoes and onions and carrots or whatever we want to add before we can pop it into the pot, which is where we're going to start cooking just now with our formula. Okay, so we're going to put it into the pot just now. That's a sneak preview of what the F is. So before we can put it into the pot, what we need to do is chop it to size. So there's my kitchen knife. I'm not going to put the whole chicken in the pot, okay, to make a curry. I'm going to chop the chicken up. I'm going to chop up my potatoes, etc. So that is what we're doing. We're organizing our values to be just right. Now, to help you do that, I've got a 3D method, okay? Letters, these little acronyms, they just make it easier to memorize stuff. So what's the first thing we do? What's the first D? Diagram. Draw yourself a simple diagram. Now sometimes there's actually often a diagram given on the script, so to save yourself time you can just annotate the diagram that they've given you. But let's take our little Martian example, and here's Matt Damon on Mars, and he throws his object, his potato, up in the air, and I'm wanting to know how high did it go? Okay, so I'm drawing a little picture there that helps to get my visual memory going and engage with the question. Then, before I do the third D, which is going to be my actual data, just a sneak preview there, that's the list, the data, I need to think of a second D. Now this D is the easiest one to forget, so don't forget direction. Before I write my list, like 2 meters per second and so on, I need to think, well, which way am I going to make positive? And which way is negative? So it makes sense to keep up as positive in this case, down as negative. Then I'm thinking, right, now I can do my data. He threw it, initial velocity was 12 meters per second. That is up. It can be positive. Sorry, I'm overlapping myself there. And then acceleration was down, minus 2 meters per second squared. The question said, how high did it go? That's my delta y that I'm going to try and find out. Now there's a secret value that we have to sneakily put in there. Some of you may have seen it already. If we want to know how high it goes, the point at the top is 0. So VF is 0 meters per second. So that's getting my list of data together. You get the idea? So I've got all my pots now lined up in front of me. I can start cooking. Woo! All right. So I'm going to get cooking. Here's my pot. Ding, 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 ding. And I'm going to throw in my ingredients and start brewing an awesome brew. So write the formula down. That's very important. So in this case, it would probably be the VF squared equals VI squared plus 2A. You could call it delta X or Y. I'm going to use Y. That's fine. Now that's important because actually at that point, the examiner will say, well done. You get a mark for that. Which one? Well, I knew that it was that one because on my list, I'd had those values. Let me see if I can rewind. Ding, ding, ding. There's my annotations. You see, VI, A, delta Y, and VF. If it's there in your list, just see how your list compares to the formula sheet and away you go. Right. So write the formula. That's worth a mark. Which one? Choose it correctly. Now we get into the W, the working. Now working, the important thing overriding everything in the way that you do your working is communicate clearly. Okay, you're not going to be standing by your examiner when she or he is marking your script. You can't say, oh, what I meant to say was that, or I did that on my calculator. What's on the paper is on the paper. Make sure that it's clear. Okay, neat, logical. Here's a nice little hint. Do your substitutions first. Okay, so once I've written my formula, okay, I'm going to go back here. VF, well, that was 0, wasn't it? VI is 12 plus, and I'm going to put my things in brackets here, 2A was minus 2 delta Y. Okay, you could square your naught if you wanted to, but it doesn't make a difference. So do your substitutions because at that point they might say, yes, well done, there's a mark there. And, oh yes, I'm going to give you another mark there. So in science, we get marks for putting the substitutions in, to know that we understand what the values are. We don't actually get marks for rearranging. So save all your mathematical gymnastics for once you've got your values in there. Okay, and then finally, very obvious, put the answer down. Okay, but don't be silly. Don't throw away marks at the last point. Okay, so remember when you write down your answer, write down always a rule of thumb is 3 things. So in our particular case, we wanted to find delta Y. That's the first thing to write down so that the examiner knows what we're looking for. Then we put down our value. You may have done this already, 36. Now, please don't walk away from the question at this point thinking, I've got my answer, okay? Because you haven't got your marks yet, because you haven't put the, yes, well done, the unit, okay? So that's an easy one to forget, so please don't throw away marks at that key point. And if it happens to be a vector, sometimes, like in this case, we will add in a 4th thing, which is the direction. All right, so 3 things at least, sometimes 4 things if it's a vector. Make your answer nice and neat and clear. And for what I do to show my examiner what it is, I'll always underline my answer like that. So that, dear friends, is Refwa. You are now in the inner circle. You are now the privileged few who understand how to do science calculations. Read, extract, formula, working, and answer. I'll see you on the flip side.